This cycle can create a pattern where individuals feel alert during the day, but struggle to sleep at night, leading to further reliance on stimulants. It becomes a loop, one that slowly disconnects the body from its natural rhythms. Breaking this loop does not require extreme measures. It requires alignment. Exposure to natural light in the morning, for instance, plays a critical role in setting the body's internal clock. It signals the brain to suppress melatonin and increase alertness, effectively anchoring the circadian rhythm. In the evening, reducing exposure to bright and artificial light allows melatonin to rise naturally, preparing the body for sleep. Consistency also matters. The body does not respond well to irregular patterns. Sleeping at different times each night disrupts the internal clock, making it harder for the body to predict and prepare for rest. Regularity, even more than duration, is a key factor in sleep quality. And then there is the environment. The body associates certaines conditions with sleep darkness. Cool température, quiet. When these conditions are inconsistent, the brain receives mixed signals. A room that is too warm, too bright, or too noisy can subtly interfere with the depth of sleep, even if you are not fully aware of it. But beyond these external factors, there is something more subtle: the state of the mind. Many people carry the day into the night. Thoughts continue, worries persist, plans are revisited. The body may be still, but the mind remains active, and sleep, which requires a degree of surrender, becomes difficult. From a neurological perspective, this is a state of heightened arousal. The sympathetic nervous system, the system associated with action and alertness, remains engaged. For sleep to occur naturally, there must be a shift toward the parasympathetic state, the state of rest and recovery. Simple practices, such as slowing the breath, reducing stimulation before bed, or creating a consistent pre-sleep routine, can signal to the body that it is safe to transition. Not safe in the emotional sense, but in the biological sense, a reduction of perceived threat, a permission to disengage. And when this happens consistently, sleep begins to restore itself. It is important to recognize that improving sleep is not about chasing perfection. It is about removing interference. The body already knows how to sleep. It has done so for millions of years. What we are often doing unintentionally is creating conditions that make this natural process more difficult. If you think of health as a system, sleep sits at its center. Nutrition, movement, mental clarity, emotional balance, all of these are influenced by the quality of sleep. And yet, sleep is often treated as secondary, something to address only when problems arise. But what if we reverse that approach? What if sleep was not the last thing we optimize, but the first? Because when sleep improves, other behaviors tend to follow. Energy increases, making movement easier. Hormonal balance improves, making healthy eating more natural. Cognitive function sharpens, enhancing decision-making. Emotional regulation stabilizes, improving relationships and resilience. In this way, sleep is not just a component of health, it is a multiplier. And perhaps this is the deeper truth. Sleep is not simply a biological necessity. It is a process that reconnects us with our own physiology. It reminds us that the body operates on rhythms, not demands. That recovery is not a weakness, but a requirement. That stillness has a function, even in a world that constantly encourages motion. When you begin to see sleep in this way, not as lost time, but as active restoration, the relationship changes. It becomes less about forcing yourself to sleep, and more about creating the conditions in which sleep can occur naturally. And in doing so, you are not just improving your nights, you are quietly transforming your days. There is something quietly powerful about the moment just before sleep. The body softens, the mind loosens its grip on the day, and, without ceremony, consciousness begins to dissolve. Yet in that ordinary transition lies one of the most sophisticated biological processes we possess, one that modern life has quietly disrupted, misunderstood, and, in many cases, neglected. We often treat sleep as a passive state, a kind of shutdown. But biologically, sleep is not an absence of activity. It is a reorganization of activity. It is a shift from external engagement to internal repair. And if you observe closely, you begin to see that the quality of your waking life is not determined only by what you do when you are awake, but by what your body is able to do when you are not. The brain, for instance, does not simply rest during sleep. It recalibrates. Throughout the day, neural pathways are strengthened as we learn, react, and adapt. By night, the brain selectively preserves what is essential and prunes what is not. This is not just memory consolidation, it is optimization. Without it, the mind becomes cluttered, inefficient, slower to respond. And this is why even a single night of poor sleep can make the world feel heavier, less clear, more difficult to navigate. But there is a deeper layer still, one that is less visible, but profoundly important. During sleep, the brain activates a kind of cleansing system, often referred to in scientific circles as the glymphatic system. It is during these hours that metabolic waste products accumulated during waking activity are cleared away. Among these are proteins associated with neurodegenerative conditions. In simple terms, sleep is not just rest for the brain, it is maintenance. Without it, the system begins to degrade. And yet, despite this, many people approach sleep as negotiable, something that can be shortened, delayed, or sacrificed in favor of productivity. But this perspective reveals a misunderstanding. Sleep is not the opposite of productivity, it is its foundation. Consider the hormonal dimension. The body operates on rhythms, circadian rhythms that are tightly linked to light and darkness. These rhythms regulate hormones that influence everything from appetite to mood to immune function. When sleep is disrupted, these rhythms lose their coherence. Cortisol, the hormone associated with alertness and stress, may rise at inappropriate times. Melatonin, which signals the body to prepare for sleep, may be delayed or suppressed. Insulin sensitivity may decrease, making it harder for the body to regulate blood sugar. Ghrelin and leptin, hormones that control hunger and satiety, begin to misfire, leading to increased appetite, particularly for calorie-dense foods. This is why chronic sleep deprivation is not just about feeling tired. It is associated with weight gain, metabolic disorders, weakened immunity, and even cardiovascular strain. The body, when deprived of proper sleep, does not simply slow down, it becomes dysregulated. And still, there is another dimension that is often overlooked, the emotional and psychological impact. Sleep is deeply tied to emotional processing. During certain stages of sleep, particularly REM sleep, the brain revisits emotional experiences, not to relive them, but to integrate them. It separates the emotional charge from the memory itself, allowing us to learn without being overwhelmed. When this process is interrupted, emotions tend to remain raw, unresolved. This is why lack of sleep can lead to irritability, anxiety, and reduced resilience. The same situation that might feel manageable after a good night's sleep can feel unbearable when you are sleep-deprived. The difference is not in the situation, it is in the brain's capacity to regulate its response. Now, if we step back and observe modern patterns, a clear tension emerges. The human body evolved in an environment where light followed a natural cycle day and night, sunrise and sunset. But today, artificial light extends our days far beyond what our biology was designed to handle. Screens emit blue light that directly interferes with melatonin production, essentially signaling to the brain that it is still daytime. And so, even when we decide to sleep, the body may not be ready. The mind remains active, the hormonal signals are misaligned, and sleep becomes shallow, fragmented, or delayed. But the issue is not only technological, it is behavioral and cultural. There is a subtle glorification of busyness, a belief that sleeping less is somehow a sign of discipline or ambition. Yet if we examine this closely, it reveals a contradiction. Because the very systems that enable focus, creativity, and endurance are dependent on sleep. To function at a high level while consistently depriving the body of sleep is not sustainable. It is a gradual decline disguised as productivity. So the question becomes not simply how much we sleep, but how we approach sleep itself. There is a concept in physiology known as sleep pressure. As we remain awake, a chemical called adenosine accumulates in the brain, creating a natural drive to sleep. Caffeine, which many people rely on, works by blocking adenosine receptors, temporarily masking this pressure. But the pressure does not disappear. It accumulates in the background. And when the effect of caffeine fades, the body often responds with increased fatigue.